welcome. We're so excited to see you here tonight for this mental health story hour. So I'm going to go ahead and start with just a really brief introduction for those who might not be familiar with NAMI-NYC and with our services. And then we'll hand it over for the bulk of tonight's session to our volunteer presenters. So just to kick off, my name is Karin, and I am the coordinator at NAMI-NYC for our In Our Own Voice program. And In Our Own Voice is the presentation that you're going to be hearing tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and start with just, like I said, some background about NAMI and the different services and supports that we have, just in case it's something that would be helpful for anyone in the room. So for those who don't know, NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we're the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. So NAMI exists all over the country, but of course we all come from NAMI-NYC, the local New York City organization. NAMI-NYC provides advocacy, education, as well as direct support, both for people who are struggling with mental health themselves, but also for family members, friends who might have a loved one who's struggling. As far as our different services, we have a ton of different peer support groups. We have classes about mental health, and we also have various workshops and presentations, kind of like what you're going to be hearing tonight. All of our groups and classes are accessible either over Zoom, over the phone, or in person. And all of our services are completely free to access. So that's important to mention. They're completely free and they're also peer-led. So we're a completely peer-based organization. And that basically just means that when you are attending, for example, a support group for people who are struggling with mental health or a class, that group or class is going to be facilitated by someone who's living with the same mental health condition. And if you're attending a group or class for family members, it's going to be facilitated by someone who's a family member themselves. So that's a really important part of what we do. We want to make sure that when you're reaching out to NAMI-NYC for support, you're being met by someone who can really understand and kind of empathize with what you're going through. In terms of details, we have over 40 different support groups currently, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about all of them because that would take our entire hour tonight. But we have groups that are focused, for example, some are focused on a specific diagnosis or maybe set of things that you're struggling with. So for example, we have our Living with Depression support group or our Living with Bipolar support group. And then we have some groups that are based around an identity. So we have our LGBTQ mental health support group or our Black Minds Matter group, for example, if you want to, talk about mental health in a group with other folks who identify it the same way. And then we also have some great social groups. If you just want to engage in a hobby together with folks who have a very open and kind of understanding about mental health. So for example, we have a running group, a creative writing group, an arts group, a knitting circle, and so on. If you want to learn more about our different groups and classes, you can see our full calendar of events at naminyc.org. I'm going to put the link in here. Oh yes, I see Barbara's already put the link in the chat. That's great. I also wanted to mention we have a fantastic phone helpline that you can call either, if you just want someone to talk to, if you want more information about NAMI services, or if you're looking for support about how to access mental health support and resources around the city. They can help with referrals, for example. Our phone helpline is available Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So yeah, I encourage everyone to check that out if you haven't had the chance yet. But I think that's all from me. So tonight we're going to have our mental health story hour. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our two presenters for the evening. I think starting with Greg.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Greg. I live in Westchester. I'm sort of a classic starving artist type, doing best he can every day. I like to just relax. I really like to be outside. It's very soothing for me. to be around trees and forests and things like that. It helps me kind of settle down. So in addition to art and going outside, my day just consists in coping with some challenges, but doing okay day at a time. Marina?
Hi everyone, my name is Marina. I'm 39 years old. I'm originally from Eastern Europe, but I moved to New York when I was 19. And tonight the purpose today is our to share how mental health has impacted our lives and describe what kind of habits and changes support our mental health. The presentation is divided into three segments: what happened, what helps, and what's next. During each section, we'll briefly share our personal story and then have time for discussion and questions. We are here for you and want to share our stories in a way that's relevant to you. The first part of the presentation will touch on some difficult topics, and we encourage you to take care of yourself during this portion. Later on, the presentation will get more positive. At the end of the presentation, we will share an evaluation form. We would love for you to fill it out so that we can continue to improve the presentation. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to my co-presenter, Greg, and to start with what happened to him.
Thanks, Marina. So, my story with mental illness started when I was a little boy. I was filled with just a sense of just tremendous fear, incredible terror when I was very, very little. And it's kind of like I was drowning, in the ocean. And so what happened was I started to, obviously, along with terror comes tremendous anxiety, and starting with depression and lots of other emotions that come along with the rawness of terror. And I started to exhibit obsessive compulsive kind of traits, some unusual habits, um, different kinds of things. But pretty quickly it shifted over into just my mind. And what I did was I created this really complex system to try to help me cope with my terror. But the problem is that the system backfired. It made everything much worse. So I started to ruminate in these very complex, very challenging ways about a million different things. The specifics aren't that important. The idea is that I was trying to find a way to run away from my feelings. And I I tried, but as I said, it was a plan that was doomed from the start. I just didn't know it. The more I ruminated, the more I tried to run away from my fear. Of course, the greater the fear became, and the more that I fought the fear, the greater the fear became. And so all this while, I'm incredibly anxious. I'm ruminating almost every waking hour about everything and anything. The depression's increasing. I was also quite sick. I was really quite physically ill as a little boy because it hit me really hard, really early. And so basically what happened was I hung in there the best I can. Um, and I kind of just faked it. I just kind of survived, and I got through to a point where I did some therapy, but nothing was really helping me really in any way, and I just kind of survived and faked it until I got to my sophomore year of college, and things were so overwhelming. I was completely non-functional, and things were so overwhelming, and I also had a medical problem because of my psychiatrist at the time overprescribed some medicine. So all these things came together, and I completely dropped out. I dropped out of college, and went back to my parents' house, just lying on the couch, looking up at the ceiling, with just completely lost in every way. So that's my summary, sort of what happened. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you so much, Greg. So, just like Greg, for me, I started to have some signs of feeling depressed in my teenager years. I was fighting with OCD because of what was going on in my household. But the real sign of depression started in my early 20s when I moved to New York and I started college. So at first, I was misdiagnosed with clinical depression. I was barely able to graduate college. And later on, after I graduated college, I was able to get a job and I got my health insurance. So I finally decided that I was going to see a therapist who decided that I should see a psychiatrist because I needed to be put on medication. The psychiatrist diagnosed me with severe bipolar disorder, borderline personality, and PTSD. And even though at the time it was a relief in a way to figure out what was happening to me, it was also very scary. This was about 15 years ago, and at the time, people didn't really talk as much of mental illnesses like we speak today. Today, you see a lot of people talking on the news about mental health awareness or their mental illness, but at the time, there were not a lot of knowledge about it. And I just remember, coming from a culture where we don't really talk much about mental illnesses or mental health awareness in general, I was terrified. I thought that I was crazy. I didn't think I was going to be able to have a normal life. And for the first, I'm going to say 12 years, it was really hell. Um, I struggle with my medication. We couldn't find a medication that could help me. I was putting on weight because of the medication. I had three suicidal attempts, two psychiatric hospitalizations, and nothing was helping. And then in 2016, I finally hit rock bottom and I did the worst thing that I could have ever done, which was to stop taking my meds. And at the time, I was on 9 different medication, one of them being lithium, and I think I was taking the highest dosage that you could get at for that medication. And basically I just completely stopped. I went into psychosis, and because of that I made some very poor decisions. And those poor decisions landed me to serve a year in state prison.
What helped me and still does to this day, because I've actually restarted up doing the therapy just 3 weeks ago. I was reading OCD because I knew I had some kind of OCD like behaviors or traits. So I was reading this OCD newsletter and I saw this article that was written in a very different way that really, really resonated with me. Just like how Corinne just said, it hit me that this person was talking in a way that was almost like what my brain is doing. And so I started to do cognitive behavior therapy. And as I said, I just started that up again for the first time seriously in over 30 years, just a few weeks ago. So I feel pretty good about it. And the basic concept of what cognitive behavior therapy is about is it's about surrendering, really. It's not about fighting your thoughts or your feelings, which I had been doing, and I still struggle with right now. It's always going to be a struggle. But the basic premise is to sort of create a separation between you and your thoughts and your feelings, which kind of just pop in. And so you create a separation from it, not in an aggressive way. You just step back and you look and you kind of say, hi there, thought, hi there, feeling. And then you sort of embrace the ambiguity and the fear of all that, and you don't ruminate about it, and then you just sort of move on with your day. So it's really a full it's a therapy about not being a prisoner of your thoughts and feelings. They're still a part of who you are. Um, I'm challenged right now by my thoughts and feelings. It never stops. It's just the way I'm built. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You learn how to cope with things that you can't get rid of or change. That's the basic premise of it. It's a non-war kind of work about acceptance and making space for pain and fear and sort of moving on with your life anyway. So that was the main structural thing that helped me at least get out of like the deepest part of the hell I was in. There's been many other tremendous challenges. It's not like, oh, I do CBT and now I'm all better. And we can talk more about that in the what's next, but because I also have, as Marina mentioned, I've not been. I was diagnosed with pure obsessional OCD. It's OCD, but it's in your brain. But like as Marina said, I'm very confident. I also have borderline personality. It's about emotional dysregulation and stuff. So um, yeah, so CBT was the thing that really um, helped me the most in terms of a structural kind of thing and a day-to-day kind of a way to live. And in addition to that, I try to implement spiritual kinds of ideas, which are sort of in line with cognitive behavior therapy, idea of trying to, go slowly, do one thing at a time, try to meditate a little, be in the moment. And these kinds of spiritual practices help me with my sort of day-to-day under the working on the engine CBT kind of work. So those are the things that have helped me the most. Thank you, Marina.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. So for me, what helped, it has to go back to prison. So like I mentioned, I spent 1 year in state prison, and in prison, there's not a lot of things to do. So during that time, I really took the time to figure out what brought me to be in that place. And I just realized that the first thing that I had to accept was that I had a mental illness. I was fighting it for years and was just living in a delusion. And I started to journal when I was in prison. And one of the things that I realized was that I needed to be able to forgive myself and also forgive my parents, my friends, who didn't understand really what was happening to me. Um, when I came back home, 4 years ago, I really put a lot of work into bettering myself. I remember being in prison and telling myself that if I was given a second chance and was able to come back home, I will do better. So when I came back home, I started therapy again. Um, I now have I speak with my therapist once a week. I speak with my psychiatrist once a week. I got myself a life coach to help me with with everything in general, either it's life related or work related. And I most recently started doing acupuncture and hypnotherapy. And I have to say that all those things have helped me a lot. I've kind of created this little village around me to help me on my daily to day basis, and I would probably not be able to function without them. And of course, for me, the most important thing is taking my meds. I've learned the hard way that I cannot afford to not take my medication. And of course, family and friends being supportive is really important. In my case, my parents are trying to understand what's going on with me, even though they can't really understand, but I'm very grateful that I have a good support of friends that are here for me, and that even though they don't understand all the time what I'm going through, they're trying to be there for me, and that's the best gift that I could get, to just have people without any type of judgment and just being supportive there. Sometimes especially what personally for me helps is just to know that I'm not alone and that I have somebody that I can go and talk to.
Yeah, so for what's next for me is I really try to live a day at a time. I really try to break up the challenges of mental illness and the challenges that come to me almost constantly. And I try to break it up into smaller parts. It's like I journal. Marina was talking about journaling, and I journal too. It's tremendously helpful to get stuff out of your head on a piece of paper. So I do things like each day, like when I'm going through really hard times, as I've been going for like this past 6 months, I'll start a page and I'll literally write today's date and I'll write today's goals. And I mentioned, the thing I'm working on this week with my therapist. Focus on this, let this go. Don't ruminate about this. So I try to take what's sort of like a terrifying, infinitely scary dragon, which is how it feels. And I try to not fight it, not run from it. I'm not fighting. I let it spray its fire on me. And then I just calmly just try to move forward and break up the day into smaller, pragmatic pieces. Today, my goal is to get through this. Today, my goal is to not ruminate on that. So it's really a day by day, very non-magical kind of thing. And it really requires discipline and work. I have to be aware really almost all the time of how I'm responding to my thoughts and feelings, because that's really what it's about. You're not just your thoughts and your feelings. They're a part of you, but you also have choice, and you can choose not to go down that path. The path is there, but I don't have to go down it. So it's a day by day journey where I try to be kind to myself and gentle with myself and just stay focused on what I'm working on this week in therapy and what my day-to-day thing is that I have to do. Um, I wish I could say it's been some glorious victory of freedom, but it's just not the case. But that's not bad. It's not bad because it's the way it is. Marina was talking about this idea of acceptance. And that's really what CBT and a lot of really good therapy is about. It's not about winning. It's about surrendering and living your life anyway. So it's sort of a humble day by day journey of doing my best and breaking things down into smaller parts. Sometimes when things are super hard, I just try to get through the next hour. And I say, for the next hour, here's what we're going to do. And then you're trying to create some degree of sort of management, not fighting, not running, but management of a very big, complex kind of dynamic. And it helps you move forward. So that's my what's next. It's just getting through the day. It's getting through today. I just try to stay focused on today. Marina?
Thank you, Greg. So just like you, I look at it like taking it one day at a time. I used to be a planner, and I realized that it would overwhelm me. I would have all those plans, and then I would feel like I would suffocate because I wouldn't be able to get through them. So I realized that taking things one day at a time and showing myself the same kindness that I'm showing to others is very important. I look at my recovery as somebody who's an addict. I'm so sorry, because it's a lifelong journey for me. I look at it as my mental illness is a lifestyle that I didn't choose for myself, but I know it's here to stay, and I better get accustomed to it and figure out a way how to live with it. And I know that for me, it's very important that I keep the therapy, I keep talking to my friends, I keep taking my medication. I'm very proud that I've been able to hold a job for the past 3 years, which is something that I was not able to do before. This is the longest I've been employed. Most of the time, I will hold a job for a few months or a year, and then I would have to go and look for another job, either because I would take too much time off from that job because I was not doing well, or because of my bipolar disorder, I would get bored really quickly and I would just jump from job to job. Um, Honestly, the for me, the best thing that I could advise is that it's not easy. It's not easy at all. There are days that are really harder than others, and that's when I go and I check on my support system and I tell them, you know what, I'm having a hard day today, or I'm having a hard week, I need help. That's something that I was never able to do before. And today I'm not ashamed to say it. I live with a multiple mental illnesses, but it's not a dead end. There is a way to have somehow a normal life and have a mental illness. And it's something that I wish my 20 years old knew about it, and maybe I would not have tormented myself so much. But you'll learn with age, and you become wiser, and with experience you realize that you know things don't have to be so hard all the time. And the most important thing is just to be honest with yourself and with the people around you.